Classroom of Elite. A bus stops at the travel and waits for the passengers to hop on. A girl asks a boy to give up his seat since it's meant for the elderly. The boy simply refuses to do so and says he has no interest in contributing to the society. The girl then asks for other passengers if anyone among them are willing to leave their seat for the old lady. Someone finally agrees to give up their seat. The bus arrives at the Tokyo Metropolitan Advanced Nurturing High School, a facility set up by the government to educate the top pupils. Kiyotaka Ayanochi is enrolled in Class 1D, a class where inferior students are dumped to be ridiculed. Cruel, right? Hold on tight, because this is just the beginning. Sei Chabashira, the homeroom teacher for Class D, describes the point system as money, with each student receiving a monthly allowance of 100,000 points to spend at neighborhood stores, with 1 point equaling 1 yen. She warns the pupils that they'll be evaluated on their merits. As he uses his points wisely to traverse the system, Kiyotaka meets the outgoing Kikyo Kushida and makes an effort to mend fences with his self-centered classmate Suzune Horikita. Kiyotaka covertly invites them and 2 other classmates to a cafeteria in an effort to assist Kushida and Suzune become friends. Suzune, however, recognizes the scheme and leaves. On April 30th, the bulk of Class D lavishly spends their points and tardies without getting in trouble, which makes Kiyotaka wonder. The Class D pupils are shocked on May 1st to learn that they did not receive any allowance. Chabashira explains that it's contingent upon merit. After failing to study, the class receives 0 points for a full month. Chabashira describes how the school system operates. The first 4-year classes are rated according to merit, and Class D has the chance to advance to Class C by doing well on tests. She issues a warning that anyone who fails the exam under the existing circumstances would be expelled. Everyone attends class frequently because they're aware of the system, with the exception of Haruki Yamauchi, Ken Sudo, and Kenji Ike. Suzune asks Kiyotaka to invite the lads to join her study group in the library after they have a discussion about these issues. Suzune's self-centeredness prevents Kiyotaka and Kushida from inviting them. While Sudo makes it clear to everyone that he wants to play basketball, he's uninterested in his academic pursuits. That evening, Kiyotaka overheard Suzune speaking to her brother and president of the student council, Manabu. In an argument over an erroneous belief in independent isolation, he threatens her. Manabu declares that he received a perfect score on every test after Kiyotaka steps in and queries if it was a coincidence or not. When the midterm tests are administered, Class D as a whole performs admirably, ranking among the top students in the school in various areas. Everyone in Class D passes the most recent exam, with the exception of Sudo, who scored just 1 point short of passing. The grades came about because Kiyotaka paid an upperclassman 15,000 points 3 days earlier to purchase exam materials. He clarifies that none of this violates any school regulations. Later, Kiyotaka finds Chabashira questioning her about equality. She responds that it doesn't, and Kiyotaka concurs. To allow Sudo to remain in class, Kiyotaka and Suzune use their points to raise the test score by 1 point. Unintentionally leaving her phone behind, Kushida is given it back by Kiyotaka. He eventually learns about her vindictive, hateful, and irascible nature. Kiyotaka is urged by Kushida to keep it a secret should she accuse him of raping her. The point distribution for Class D is postponed on July 1st due to an incident that included Sudo and 3 Class C basketball teammates the day before. Sudo retaliated in self-defense after being attacked. However, because to his bad reputation, he will be held accountable unless the class can get a witness to exonerate him by the hearing the following week, in which case the class will not receive any points for the month. The 3 Class C attackers ask their classmate Kakeru Ryuyen to assault them in secret in an effort to sway the outcome of the case in their favor. The pupils in Class D post messages requesting witnesses of crimes with the assistance of Class B. Kiyotaka and the others are informed by Suzune that Airi Sakura was present and captured the incident on camera. That evening, Kiyotaka and Kushida have a discussion on the truth. If there's no evidence and one of the suspects is a killer and the other is a law-abiding citizen, people are more likely to trust the law-abiding citizen, even if they're guilty. The following day, Sakura is asked for the proof and unintentionally drops the camera. She panics when she can't use it, assumes she broke it, and then keeps running away from the situation because she doesn't want to become involved. At the electronics store, Sakura, Kiyotaka, and Kushida examine the camera that is still under warranty. When the shopkeeper asks Sakura for her contact information, Kiyotaka responds with his. Kiyotaka discovers that Sakura is the lately popular online model. Both classes testify during the tribunal presided over by Manabu, blaming one another of starting the conflict. The initial decision favors Class C. Suzune remains mute until Kiyotaka reminds her to speak. Suzune inquires as to the details of the fight, pointing out that it's virtually impossible for Sudo to be solely to blame for injuries of that magnitude in a 3-to-1 fight. He uses Sakura as a witness, demonstrating her presence by showing that she photographed the fight that was occurring in the background of a photo shoot, but the proof simply establishes her presence. It does not absolve Sudo of any crime. A compromise suspension for Sudo of 2 weeks and each of the 3 Class C pupils of 1 week is put forth by Sakagami, the homeroom teacher of Class C, but is rejected by Class D. Manabu concludes the session after recognizing that one side is obviously lying and declares that, barring any admissions or new proof, he will make his judgment the next day. He makes reference of his ability to expel any pupil. When Sakura gets back to the dorm, she discovers the pictures in a mailbox. Kiyotaka and Suzune put up a trap at the stairway in order to take advantage of the delay in the decision that was made possible by the photo. In order to lure the 3 Class C students to the stairs, where Kiyotaka and Suzune are waiting, and Honami Ichinose installed security cameras, Kushida sends them a fictitious message, instructing them to meet her in the special annex. This aids in their deception of the Class C students into thinking that there's nothing to be gained by proceeding with the complaint and that the trio could be expelled since they committed a malicious lie that involved the school. The Class C pupils consequently consent to drop their grievance. After that, Shizuku, the alter ego of the electronics store clerk and a devoted user of the internet, attacks Sakura, but Kiyotaka and Ichinose arrive to save her and use the tracking feature in their phones and the security cameras to detain the clerk. Suzune is informed by Chabashira that Kiyotaka is one of the school's defectives and that Class D is where they're housed. Manabu tries to get Kiyotaka to join the student council, but he rejects and gives Suzune the glory for handling the situation. Suzune and Kiyotaka intend to assist the others in getting to Class A. Suzune is welcomed to the pool by Kiyotaka when she's studying in the dorm room for the summer break. Class D students Kiyotaka, Sudo, Ike, Yamauchi, and Operation Manager Hideo Sotomura meet up last night to plan how they would spy on the women in the changing rooms. Sotomura communicates with the boys via transceivers and hand signals while observing them from the general storage along the journey. Yamauchi, who has invited everyone, enters the woman's changing room while posing as a janitor to covertly place the cameras while pretending to close it for cleaning. Ike enters there as a result of his difficulty. While Ike is still inside, Ryuyen and the students from Class C approach the changing area. Sudo, who needs assistance to escape, blocks Ryuyen from entering the room to buy some time before Class A students show up and start fighting. Manabu reminds everyone that as long as they're on school property, they're still subject to judgment. Sotomura alerts Kiyotaka to the issue, and Suzune makes a statement from the top of a diving platform about Class D one day becoming Class A. Suzune takes out the SD cards from the cameras to thwart the plan while the others are preoccupied, allowing Ike to slip out of the changing room undetected. Kiyotaka explains to Suzune that he chose her since there's a chance that none of his other classmates would have done this. All first-year students travel together on a posh cruise ship for a class excursion. Chabashira informs Kiyotaka that an unidentified guy had phoned the school and requested that he'd be dismissed. Chabashira offers to fill in for him so that he can go to Class A. He declines, thinking she could be trying to control him, but she threatens to expel him and takes away his freedom if he does. Kiyotaka and Suzune talk about the trip's destination later. He confesses to her his suspicion that the school is transporting them to a boarding home on an island that it owns for another reason. Ryuyen tries to mislead Suzune regarding the installation of the security cameras. The exact purpose of the excursion is revealed to every pupil by the school the next day. On a remote island for a week, they must pass a survival exam. Yosuke Hirata discusses the survival test's operation from the instructions. The remaining test points at the end of the week can be converted to class points. The class is given 300 test points to spend on meals and other conveniences. When there are injuries, environmental damage, missed roll calls, or acts of violence against other classes, the class loses test points. Class D choose to save up points while the females feel the need for a portable restroom, and Class D decides to tough it out. When the group splits up in search of a campsite, Kiyotaka is paired with Sakura and Rokusuke Koenji. Remembering what Chamashira said about possessing a spot, that only the designated class leader can do it, and that each possession point lasting for 8 hours earns the team one special test point that can only be exchanged for class points, Kiyotaka departs Koenji while he and Sakura search for a spot to secure. The class also gets to guess who the leader from another class is by betting 50 points. Kiyotaka notices Kohei Katsuragi clutching the leader card while chatting with classmate Yahiko Totsuka as he searches for a place to sit. Class D meets once more and pitches its tent near the river. Suzune is picked as the leader because she's trustworthy and blends in. Kiyotaka, Yamauchi, and Sakura discovered an injured Mio while gathering firewood, and Kushida decides to offer her some of the fruit his classmates discovered. The class choose how to allocate their 180 points, which must be used to purchase 2 meals per day, a bathroom, a tent, and an additional 30 points for unforeseen circumstances. The class is affected when Koenji withdraws even though he isn't as sick as he claims to be, costing Class D 30 points. Suzune and Kiyotaka travel to investigate the situation at other camps. The camp for Class B is situated closer to a waterfall and functions similarly to the camp for Class D, but in a nicer area. The camp of Class A is in a well-secured cave. Suzune tries to sneak a peek, but retreats when Katsuragi sends for his security team and cautions her against doing so because it could spark a conflict. Under Ryuen's direction, Class Camp C is located on a beach where all points have already been used, and the group treats the test like a vacation. Ryuen took this action since they were aware that if they used up all of their test points beforehand, they wouldn't be penalized. Mio is chastised by Ryuen for defying him. Someone broke into the girls' tent that night in the dark and took the phone from Class D camp. Class D conducts additional reconnaissance to identify the class leaders on the 4th day. When Kiyotaka and Sakura run across Ichinose in Class Camp C's, they find out that everyone had dropped out of the test except for Mio. Kei Karuizawa learns that her underwear was taken on the 5th day. Ike's bag is searched by Class D, but Yamauchi discovers it there. Kiyotaka accepts it, but the girls insist on being patted down. Hirata discovers Kiyotaka during the pat-down search but claims he was unable to locate it. Later, after speaking with him, he chooses to take the underwear because Karuizawa is his girlfriend and he will suffer the least amount of consequences for being the guilty party. The girls of Class D decide to divide the boys and girls camps as a result of the incident involving the item theft, which causes confidence within the class to decrease. When Mio inquires about the thief's perspective, Kiyotaka tells her that Sudo accuses her while also saying that he believes her. Kiyotaka sees Suzune's sickness during the entire test when they're sitting by a campfire that evening. Suzune had been recuperating in her cabin throughout the cruise, but she's determined to tough it out. The following day, Class D prepares meals ahead of a storm. Kiyotaka asks Suzune to verify that the leader card Katsuragi was holding was genuine as he's fishing in the river. He sees it, but he's still not convinced. Suzune throws Yamauchi to the ground after he approaches her and smears mud on her hair. Someone stole the leader card in secret and let Kiyotaka know while Suzune washes the mud out of her hair. The survival test manual has then been set on fire, which has caused Class D to lose even more trust. Suzune fails to reclaim her keycard from Mio because she believes Mio did it since she's from a different class and no one else saw the altercation. Mio gives the card to the unidentified student. As it's revealed that Class A and Class C are cooperating, Mio uses a ham radio to inform Katsuragi that she has successfully obtained Suzune's card. The Suzune who is hurt is removed from the experiment. The students take down their camps on the last day, and the classes guess who their leaders are, with Class B choosing not to guess. At the meeting, Ryuen admits that he secretly made an agreement with Katsuragi to give Class A 200 test points in exchange for the card or the picture. Everyone in Class C, with the exception of Ryuen, Mio, and Kaneda, the last of whom was tasked with spying on Class B, withdrew from the test when Class C quickly squandered the remaining 100 points. Yahiko Totsuka for Class A, Chichiro Shiranami for Class B, and Suzune for Class D are the leaders that Class C would predict. The results are known, and Class D scored 225 points to win. Class B came in second with 140 points, Class A came in third with 120, and Class Z scored 0 points. When the students get back to the cruise ship, Arisusaka Yanagi confesses that her plot to make everyone distrust Katsuragi and reduce his influence over the class was successful since her ally Ashimoto leaked information about class leader A's to Ryuyen. Suzune is informed by Kiyotaka that by allowing Mio to steal the card, Kiyotaka took Suzune's place as leader and made sure that Class A and Class C misidentified her. He admits that he only saw the back of Katsuragi's card, but given how cautious the boy was, he made the assumption that Totsuka was class leader A's with the other ones. He was aware that Ryuyen had not withdrawn, and since he observed him using the same radio Mio did, he assumed that he was class captain. C's Kiyotaka decided not to reveal class leader B's so as not to undermine the partnership between Class D and Class B. According to Ryuyen, the primary driver behind the collaboration with Class A was his promise to sign a contract committing him to get 20,000 points each month until graduation from each Class A student. Kiyotaka meets with Chabashira and learns from her that his father was the one who wanted him expelled. Kiyotaka assures Chabashira that he will continue to disobey his father despite his attempts to get him expelled from school. In order to gain the trust of others, Kiyotaka tells Hirata that she was responsible for class win D's after explaining to Suzune that she needed supporters. But Kiyotaka doesn't want anything to do with Suzune or anybody else in his class since he only sees people as tools, and he will keep using and killing people as long as he wins in the end. We've now come to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed the recap. If you did, leave your thoughts in the comments section below. We'd be thrilled to hear from you. Don't forget to click the subscribe button to catch more recaps like this. Thanks for watching. Until next time.